Hello and welcome into the finale. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, jokers of all ages, welcome to the final Monday Mayhem of the 2023 fantasy football season. For most, it was the championships, and hopefully you guys won. I unfortunately did not.
Life sucks, and then you die.
That's about how I feel right now. Basically, though, just a quick announcement off the top. Yes, this is the final Monday Mayhem. We will not be back to recap Week 18. If you are still playing Week 18 championships, that's your punishment. You don't deserve a Monday recap. I'm just kidding with you. We'll still be there for Thursday Thriller, live at 7 Eastern. Do all the final start sits, even though it's a lot of teams are going to be sitting their stars with a lot of stuff already wrapped up. If for some reason you're still playing, I know ESPN leagues, for example, it's default 2-week playoff settings that run into Week 18. There's no commish that sets it. It's just ESPN sucks balls. So, hey, if you're still playing over there, convert to Sleeper. What are you doing with your life? Speaking of which, let's start off with actually, for once, what I got right this week.
Not the kind of person to say a toe-to-so, but you know what? A toe-to-so. A fucking a toe-to-so.
So, I mean, Najee fucking Harris, am I right? Like, a little bit too late for me. Every time I tried to start him, it was a big old go fuck yourself.
Go fuck yourself.
Very beleaguered year for me and Najee Harris. But hey, when it came to the fantasy championships, that's when he came through and looked like the running back I thought he could be all year. The other one, I mean, he still got in the end zone, so he just barely got you there. But Zeke, I just had a bad feeling about Zeke. I saw a lot of people asking Zeke or A-Chain. I was all aboard the A-Chain, so hopefully you were there with me. And Jordan Love. Hey, Jordan Love looked fantastic in the Sunday night matchup. It was the last game, the Island game. I think lots of people watched that. So, yeah, Jordan Love crushed it, and that was something that I had really been on all year. My guy Tyler Bradley in the comments, hey, go fuck yourself. Tyler's the one that beat me for the championship in Death Row. So I love him, but I hate him. Get into what I got wrong this
I'm stupid, you're smart. I was wrong, you were right. You're the best, I'm the worst. You're very good looking, I'm not attractive.
All right. As long as you're willing to admit that.
Man, the main things I got wrong, honestly, there was no way around it. I think for a lot of people, you started your studs in the fantasy finals and they let you down. We'll get into all of that in the hearts and farts. But for myself, a little bit of wish casting probably, but Stephon Diggs, Derrick Henry, and then Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, those are the ones that I really ate on the chin.
Pain.
But speaking of pain, before we get into the hearts and farts, I have a fucking segment for you guys. The best segment of the year so far has been Who Scored More Than Kyle Pitts This Week?
Who in the blue hell are you?
And I'm rolling up my sleeves for this one because it's a long list. Holy shit. It's so long and so juicy, I turned it into a poem. All right, here we go. Kyle Pitts had one whole ass reception for 5 yards this week. So there were a lot of guys. Get ready. Who scored more than Kyle Pitts this week? A free verse. Tyler Conklin, Ben Sims, Jordan Akins, and Elijah Higgins. You had a Troutman and an Auden, a Granson and a Jordan, a Parkinson and a Tunyon, even a Sample and a Hudson, Tommy Tremble and Luke Farrell, even Julian Hill, Noah Gray, John Bates, and even Lucas Krull, Harrison Bryant, Mecole Pruitt, Mo Alley Cox, and Peyton Hendershots, Charlie Kolar and Kevin Rader, Austin Hooper and Josh Oliver, and hey, even Daniel Bellinger, Foster Moreau and Chigo Okonkwo, Mike Gesicki and Will Mallory, Tucker Kraft Dinner was Noah Fantastic, Johnny Munt and Durham Smythe. Happy New Year's and good fucking night. Oh, that felt good. Right from the soul. Fuck you, Arthur Smith. And with that, guys, let's get into the hearts and farts. The guys, will start with the positive. Who led you into your fantasy championship?
You know how people talk about how the day of your wedding or your baby being born should be the greatest day of your life? It's not. You have no idea how this feels. Yeah, go faster. You gonna stand up? You like that, Shiva, huh? Yeah. Shiva, come in. It's all kind of crap.
So, I mean, Lamar Jackson absolutely crushed the Dolphins and fantasy championships. He could not lead me, though, to victory past Tyler Bradley, who had his first perfect season, and he was able to beat me on the back of some other guys that we'll talk about in this list. But I had the number one quarterback, Lamar. We'll talk about later, the number one running back, too. But, man, what a rough week. For quarterbacks, though, getting back to it, Jordan Love, we talked about earlier in what I got right. He was number 2 on the week. Old man Joe Flacco leading the Browns on a playoff run in the year of 2023. Everyone saw that coming, right? The rest of the guys on the list for the true top 5 that you were really happy about, Kyler Murray and Justin Fields. And then kind of the back end, these guys were all above 20, so they didn't kill your week. Dak, Hurts, Aiden O'Connell, fucking Farva getting in on the action. If you had to stream Tyrod Taylor for some reason, it worked out. Baker Mayfield, Josh Allen, Brock Purdy, Tua, even in the loss, managed 20 points at least. And Jake Browning, not to be forgotten. For the running backs, Kyren Williams also on my squad. I was absolutely freaking out. I'm the smartest man alive watching Lamar Jackson and Kyren Williams go for 8 touchdowns just to watch my studs that I would normally just not even bat an eye on fuck me over in the afternoon games. Again, we will get to all of the lamentations a little bit later. For now, we'll stick with the guys that helped us win our championships. Isaiah Pacheco, Travis Etienne put a cap on what was a really good fantasy season for him after some rough weeks. Jerome Ford, Breece Hall, James Conner, who was directly responsible for taking me down in that championship. Devon Achane, Najee fucking Harris, Justice Hill, who just shout out Best Ball. There's obviously tons of Best Ball getting cashed out. I forget the name of the Twitter user, but shout out the Twitter user that won $3 million on the back of Jaden Reed's magical game. It pushed them into first place, and they ended up taking down the Best Ball Mania 4 tournament. So that was really awesome to see. But yeah, getting into that, there's a lot of playoff best ball stuff going on right now. Obviously, Justice Hill, he's still an excellent value that I've been taking at the running back spot for some of the playoff stuff I've been doing. So just a little tidbit right there for you guys. Khalil Herbert, Jalen Warren, Joe Mixon, Jonathan Taylor, Ken Walker, Zamir White, Aaron Jones, and Bijan? No, it was Tyler Algier. Because again, fuck Arthur Smith. For the wide receivers, the main man, the primary player responsible for my downfall.
Just hit the pillow. See how you feel.
There's your fucking pillow.
Feel better?
Yeah, I do.
If you face CD Lamb in your championship, you might be needing some therapy sessions after. I know I'm going to be struggling with this loss for a little while, but CD Lamb was definitely the main culprit. He was the main man responsible. It was him and James Conner, and also Buffalo Bills defense, which ironically, like 2 years ago, I think, because it's Dynasty. This is how Dynasty bites you in the ass. Like 2 or 3 years ago, I traded the Buffalo Bills defense to Tyler for a first, like, Bills in pieces for a first round pick. So of course it was Bills defense that helped take me down this week. But that's in the defense section. For besides CeeDee Lamb, Davante Adams, again, out of nowhere. People were trying to fade Davante Adams. He's the reason, the mantra of why you start your studs. DJ Moore, Jaden Reed. Again, I mentioned the $3 million BBM4 winner on the back of Jaden Reed's fantastic game. Brandon Ayuk, Darius Slayton, Zay Flowers, Amon-Ra, Puka Nacua. Puka putting a cap on a magical rookie season. He was someone I had lots and lots of shares of. George Pickens, Chris Godwin, Debo, Rashee Rice, Lil Jordan Humphrey. Can I get a what? Wandale, Trey Palmer, Bo Melton. These are like real deep ass leagues. You want to talk about deep dive? Julio Jones in the year of 2023 making the list. And then Terry McLaurin, Brandon Cooks, DK Metcalf, and DeAndre Hopkins just barely with 7 for 72. At the tight end spot, Jawan Johnson. He is the Saints tight end that has emerged as the best pass catcher. Might be worth keeping an eye on as a deep like sleeper pick for next year in dynasties and redrafts. David Njoku continues to crush. If he's not crushing Batman villains on the weekend, he's crushing defensive backs on Sundays, thanks to Joe Flacco. Isaiah Likely smashing in place of Mark Andrews right now. Dallas Goedert, Sam Laporta, Taysom Hill managed a receiving touchdown, so he continues to be the Swiss Army knife, but probably nobody was still starting him. Evan Ingram, and then kind of like the volume guys that got you the 10 points you barely needed. McBride, Tucker Kraft, and Darren Waller right around that 10-point range. And on defense, because defense matters in championship. Defense wins championships, guys. Houston Texans, Jacksonville Jaguars, Buffalo Bills, the New York Giants. What? And the Cleveland Browns. And also shout out to the Packers. They've tied with the Browns. But again, probably nobody was playing them because of Joe Barry's defense that was a sieve all year, but showed up for the Vikings game when it really, really mattered. And now let's get into what really matters. The guys that fucked us over, the guys that let us down.
Shit!
Did you lose?
You shut your mouth! Every year I set this league up. Every year, and I never win. This was the year! Bullshit! I babysit you morons. I babysit you. Oh, help me out. Do this. Move that guy around. Oh, I don't know how to set a lineup. You, Taco. And Ruxin. Stupid Wiseman. You stupid eggs.
My eggs!
Stupid.
Daddy, stop! Geggle's watching you. He's gonna report to Santa.
Look me in the eye, Ellie. There is no Gaggle. And there's no Santa Claus. And there's no Christmas. There's no God. There's no Easter Bunny. There's nothing.
I gotta say, I feel like I just won twice.
It feels that way, I'm not going to lie. Matthew Stafford got all his fantasy goodness sucked away by Kyron Williams' monster game. And then this was disturbing. this was the less than Jarrett Stidham line. Jared Goff, Patrick Mahomes, that was the one that really fucking killed me. CJ Stroud and Mason Rudolph, because I know there were definitely some people out there streaming Rudolph, the red zone reindeer, after what happened last week in Superflex leagues if you were dealing with injuries. And trust me, we all fucking were this year. With the running backs, again, Derrick Henry, number one for me on this list. Absolutely, between Mahomes, Henry, and Travis Kelce is going to be later on the list. Those guys, I would normally be like not even blinking 100%. Derrick Henry against Houston, that's a smash his whole career. Of course, he fucking lets me down when it counts. Continuing on, though, with the running backs, Austin Eckler continued his horrific downfall in terms of his fantasy relevance. That's going to be an interesting debate and dilemma, is where and if you decide to draft Austin Eckler next year. Javonte Williams, Saquon Barkley, that one surprised me. Even though it was a tough matchup, he's been like the whole offense, and they scored like over 20 points, so you thought he'd be more involved. DeAndre Swift, Alvin Kamara, Tony Pollard, James Cook, and Jahmyr Gibbs let you down hard. For the wide receivers, Tyreek Hill is so good that 6 for 76 honestly feels bad. Like, that's how good he is. And again, on my fantasy team, maybe it's just I needed him to match what CeeDee Lamb was doing, and it was not that. Unfortunately, the Ravens held him in check. So it was still a good day for fantasy for the most part. It's not the reason I lost. I'm blaming Mahomes, Kelce especially. But it's still, if you were riding high on how good Tyreek's been all year, it definitely didn't feel like your usual Tyreek day. And then speaking of Cooper Kupp, managed a touchdown, but when he only had 4 for 27 and a tutty, again, it wasn't that great. Justin Jefferson, only 5 for 59. Mike Evans, only 3 for 70. And then after that, it just got uglier and uglier. Garrett Wilson, Drake London, Michael Pittman, Jerry Jeudy, A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, Calvin Ridley, Tyler Lockett, Stephon Diggs, Jamar Chase, Romeo Doubs, Jordan Addison, Chris Olave, Gabe Davis, T. Higgins, Noah Brown, and KJ Osborne were popular streaming plays, and Odell Beckham. Just all massive flops, and a lot of those massive names going to be really big questions for, especially I think, Stephon Diggs going into next year. Maybe questions about Drake London, depending if they decide that they're actually going to be crazy enough to keep Arthur Smith. I'm not even ready to think about next year right now. I'm tapped out. I know there's diehards out there already like, when's the next draft? There's guys in my leagues drafting right now. I'm not about that life. As much as this is a huge hobby and passion of mine, I need to fucking take a month off after this shit. Oh my God. For the tight ends, I've said it already a bunch of times because it's just sticking in my craw. Travis Kelce, after 2 years of just pure dominance and being able to count on him as an absolute advantage. It's been rough for like many weeks now, but when it happens in your championship, when you were able to make it there in spite of everything, it was, you know what it was? The whole thing of like, we're simplifying the offense and all the bullshit. And then I see it's the same shit. It's these fucking crappy out routes and him just lacking fundamentals, not looking the ball in, easy drops. I'm like, it's just the same. It's the same crap. They can't really change much because honestly, they don't have the personnel to do it. And I think that's something that very obviously they're going to have to address in the offseason and retool. I do think for dynasty purposes, obviously Mahomes is locked in for next year. I think he's actually going to have a nice rebound season next year. But Travis Kelce, I don't think they're going to win the Super Bowl this year. I think he's going to come back for one more year. Maybe that's a little bit of wish casting on my part, hoping my older roster can make one more run. But yeah, I actually do, just in general, though, I think he is going to come back for one more year. And then the rest of these guys, big names again, George Kittle, Pat Freiermuth, who very disappointing season. I thought he would be significantly better. Jake Ferguson, dud game. Gerald Everett was a popular streamer, put up a dud. Dalton Schultz was irrelevant. And we had a whole fucking segment and poem dedicated to it. Kyle Pitts, the ultimate fart on the whole year. And on defense, the Carolina Panthers, I mean, I was forced to start them. I only had two options. It was either that or Steelers, and I knew the Steelers against the Seahawks was a bad matchup. And honestly, they scored the same amount of fantasy points. So I dealt with it. Again, not the reason I lost my matchup, but obviously 6 fantasy points in your fantasy championship when you're kind of forced into it. I know there were some people who tried streaming it because CJ Beathard was starting. It didn't work out. Speaking of not working out, Las Vegas Raiders. I even recommended that one. So if you listen to me on that, I apologize. I mean, it's one of those things though. It's process over results. People always say it's bullshit. It doesn't make you feel better. But the truth is, they were a fucking smash for 2 weeks in a row. The Colts haven't looked that great. And honestly, the truth is the Colts just played a relatively clean game at home. It wasn't super high scoring or anything, but it was one of those like weird. I remember saying specifically like maybe Miami Ravens doesn't turn into the back and forth shootout that we want, and maybe Colts Raiders actually turns into a little bit more of a weird little shootout. It kind of got close to that with Devontae Adams popping off. So if you did try to go with the Raiders, that one hurt. And then I already mentioned the Steelers, and then the Philadelphia Eagles and Dallas Cowboys. Those are two rock star defenses that I think people were riding a lot through the fantasy season, especially in the beginning of the year. And they were absolute slam dunks that just blew up in your face.
Do you want to see me dunk? Okay. Are you guys ready? I'm okay. Don't worry.
Does that always happen?
Yeah, I mean, it seems to always happen to me, fuck. Speaking of, we're just going to wrap up right here. I don't really have much else going on for you guys. If you won your fantasy championships, my sincerest congratulations. If you lost your leagues or lost your championships, honestly, even more so, I feel your pain. I'm right there with you. Didn't pull in any championships this year. Happens to the best of us. So we'll come back strong next year. And that's a perfect segue into just in general. If you've been a fan of the show, first of all, fucking appreciate the hell out of you. Thank you so much for following along. But we are going to be taking some time off. And when I say we, I mean me, because I do this all by myself, except for obviously the amazing guests that I'm able to have on the show. But it doesn't mean I'm not going to be putting out shows. Basically, what's going to be happening, Thursday Thriller, live at 7 p.m., the last one of the year. We will be there. I'm trying to get a guest on the show to help me out through the start sits for week 18. Again, if you are stuck playing a week 18 championship for some reason, I'll be there to help you guys through the start sits. I will not be there to recap it with you, though, next week. So starting next week officially, we are moving into only 2 shows a week. For sure. The Wild Card Wednesdays. Those are my favorite shows anyways. And honestly, I can tell you guys, those are going to ramp up in the offseason. There are a lot of amazing guests that I could not get during the fantasy season because obviously they are incredibly busy. But I've already reached out to a few, and I will have some really heavy hitters coming during the offseason for Wildcard Wednesday. So please make sure that you like and subscribe on YouTube and on Spotify. They are basically general life comedy-based interviews that I do with your favorite fantasy football content creators. Also, some other sport content creators that I'm trying to get into it. And hell, I might even branch out just to content creators in general. Someday we'll see. But for now, keeping it to sports content creators, definitely more focused on the fantasy football. But I can tell you guys, we do have a crossover coming with one of the boys from 5-Hole Fantasy Hockey. So I'm excited about that. Excited about some of the more crossovers that will be coming in the future for Wildcard Wednesday. So that is ramping up into the off season. It's still going to be once a week. Wildcard Wednesday is releasing every single Wednesday. It's going to be there for you guys in the mornings. I don't have a specific time, but generally speaking, it's pretty early. Obviously, some days it runs late. If it does, I'll announce it. But for the most part, it's usually up right around 8-ish. Otherwise, though, the other shows, kind of indeterminate, but basically I'm working behind the scenes. I've got some pre-recorded stuff, some top 10 stuff. I'll be premiering those once a week. I've got some yearly recap shows coming along the way, some other stuff I'm working on. But basically what I'm going to do is Wildcard Wednesdays for sure will release on Wednesdays, and then kind of intermittently, at least once a week, I will be releasing other videos along the way during the off season. And then probably in a month or two, we'll get back into kind of the regular flow of the fantasy shows, getting back into some dynasty content before we get into some redraft and as the timeline goes along. But basically, I want to take the time off, not, because I'm going anywhere, but I really it was my first year doing content creation. It was my first year doing Underdog Best Ball too. It was my first year doing a couple different types of leagues. I really put myself out there and tried to expand this year. And I'm just going to continue to try and grow and do that. And so obviously want to pull back a little bit and do some retooling, some refurbishing of the channel, working on a lot of the graphics, working on a lot of the intros, working on a lot of the back end shit to really just, make things as best I can. So I will be taking a little bit of a hiatus in terms of the live shows and all that shit. But like I said, still going to have some weekly shows for you guys, especially I will repeat it over and over. Wildcard Wednesdays on Wednesdays, YouTube and Spotify. Please, please, please. If you're going to subscribe to any of the shows, go subscribe to those ones. And speaking of subscribing, because I'm going to take a little bit of a hiatus, this is the final one of the year. The list of Joker, all of my favorite Twitter follows for fantasy football. A lot of these are true diehards that have year-round season content going for you guys. So, while I'm on a little bit of a hiatus, if you are a true diehard and you're like, but Jack, I'm already in my slow draft for my dynasty league for next year and I need help. All right, well, here are some accounts to follow. You just made the list.
You just made the list.
You just made the list! Oh my God. You just made the list! The stupid soccer mom's hair! You just made the list!
Now, she's reporting her neighbor was ex-Catholic by her demand and let her close to talk to. Well, she doesn't know what to do. She says we shot for her for Colorado. Says she hates me ever since I arrived. Says I'm not allowed to go on her. Because it would be too challenging in court. That I would not be an occupant of an assembly hall in her state. But they're saying that she's having fun. Not with yet this policy. That's Liver says she's moved in. And that she just, she don't want the challenge. Here we go. She plays with Pittsburgh Steelers. She wants no Bowling Green, Ohio. Let's back up to this. She wants someone else. Here we go. Here we go. Now she says she hates it. She's got a crush for 27 years. She's always going to die. And she won't let